Should we start talking about The Lost World?
We should. We should. So before we do that, though, let's do a quick little shout out to our own stuff. You guys can go to saltynerdstore.com if you want to check out some of our merchandise. We have some stickers. We got some coffee mugs. One of my favorite that we just made is out now. It's got the DeLorean on it, and it says, "We were promised flying cars, not face masks and bad sci-fi." Shout out to Nick Sheffer, our Patreon, who came up with that quote. I just thought it was perfect, so I made it into a mug for him. That's available there. Also, a bunch of other stuff. So just go check it out. If you guys want to support the podcast, you can go to saltynerdstore.com. Takes you straight to our Teespring account, and you can check out what we have there. All right. Let's get into The Lost World. I feel like you guys have a lot more to say about this.
Yeah.
So I just want to start with saying the budget for the first one was $63 million. The budget for the second one was $73 million. So the difference between the budget was $10 million.
They spent $10 million building the...
Look at Jude doing research and stuff.
They spent $10 million building those trailers and those special off-road vehicles with the...
Yeah.
That's where that $10 million went.
I feel like the money went to the wrong places.
And it's funny because the big animatronic dinosaurs that they used, they were so heavy that they, instead of trucking them around to sets, they had to build the sets around them and then tear down those sets and build up the new ones whenever they switched. So.
Yeah. Oh, we forgot to mention the animatronic. Stan Winston's studio, the guy, the crew that was in charge of all the animatronics for all these movies, is just incredible work. Absolutely incredible.
He's a legend. He did the Terminator.
Yep.
Yeah.
He did Predator.
I get like so involved in watching like YouTube videos from his YouTube channel. Stan Winston Studio, I think, has a YouTube channel that they just show old archive footage of them working with the raptors and with the Dilophosauruses and T-Rexes, and I love it.
I used to write them a letter every month begging to be an intern.
Really? Oh, and they never accepted you?
They never even got back to me.
Oh, how dare they? I would be an intern. That would be amazing. I'd work there for free for sure. I'd make them coffee every day.
I wouldn't work anywhere for free.
No? I'd do it.
I don't like the whole intern thing.
I'm doing this
bullshit.
for free.
That's a lifelong
It's a lot of work.
It's a lifelong. It is. It's a lifelong dream of mine is to be able to see one of the animatronic T-Rexes before they get shuffled off into Hollywood storage.
I can go buy one of those blow-up ones that people run around. Just walk through the neighborhood.
That'd be hilarious. All right, so let's talk about, before we get into the weeds. Let's talk about The Lost World. Jude, you haven't said too much about the first movie, so you seem to have some pretty good
This
opinions.
movie has everything.
Go for it, girl.
Every trope. It has the shitty daughter. It has the cowboy. It has the military. It has the absurd hunter, crazy person. It has the scientist. It has dinosaurs. The only thing it's lacking is nudity.
So did you not like it?
I hate this movie.
Why?
It's so bad.
Why do you hate it?
It's so bad. I just hate every character in this movie. Everyone was just over the top, obnoxious, and shitty.
Wow.
It was funny when we were watching it. I had forgotten that Vince Vaughn was in it.
Yeah.
and he had
Earth first.
and basically for Swingers, they had to go to Spielberg to get like permission to use like a piece of music from one of his movies. I think it was Jaws or something like that. And so Spielberg had seen a screening of Swingers, and he was really impressed with Vince Vaughn. So he's like, "Hey, do you want to be in Jurassic Park?" And Vince Vaughn was like, yes. and so this was like his first big movie after he hit it big with Swingers. And, when he shows up on screen, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot.
Vince Vaughn.
He's on there.
Everyone in this movie is either an idiot or an asshole.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's funny, Jude, when you said this movie was lacking nudity, because Julianne Moore had just done Boogie Nights, I think. And, she played she played a porn actress in that.
That came out before this?
I think it did.
Huh.
Because that was something that kind of launched her into the limelight, because she hadn't been like a very big draw up until then.
Tell me why you think what you just said. Everybody is either an idiot or an asshole. So tell me like specifically moments that say that to you. I'm confused.
I just feel like it. Okay, so was the daughter in the book?
No, the daughter was a mesh of two characters.
Okay.
In the book, there's a character named Arby and a little girl named Kelly.
And I can't wait to explain to you guys why that character came about.
The one in the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Arby was a young black kid who was like a super nerd, very smart with computers, very smart with math and stuff like that. And Kelly was more of like the tomboyish, physical type person who would go out and do stuff, and they were friends.
So it was kind of like the brother and sister from the first book. They had a version of that in the second book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense.
She wasn't a gymnast though, right?
No.
Yeah, it was just, I just don't think it was very well written. I felt like the dialogue between characters was not believable.
There was a weird stint in movies where people were like, let's have all the characters talk at once in an incoherent fashion so that
the crosstalk.
The crosstalk. Let's have everybody crosstalk because it makes everything feel natural and fast and witty. I hate that.
Yeah.
It's the worst part of this movie.
I hate when people ask stupid questions in a movie, which if you're in that movie, you should know the answer to that question before you ask it. Like when the
Give me an example.
When the one guy with the engine group or whatever, he was like, "What's a velociraptor?" And I out loud was like, "Dude, what are you doing here? What are your qualifications for even being with this group on this island? You don't know what a velociraptor is? Go read a book."
It was the Peter Stormare character.
He was essentially just a hired gun. Like that's literally all it was.
Yeah, but you'd think they'd have given him because the main safari guy had a dossier on like all the different dinosaurs. You'd think every guy.
Yeah,
that team
everybody should have had to have read that.
Yeah, but that's good management, and who says that exists anywhere?
Okay, well you're going to an island where there's dinosaurs,
Yeah, but
so you should be
even
prepared.
Hammond's crew didn't know that. Like Ian was like, well, "You came here. What did you expect you were going to see?" And they were like, "We don't know." Like
big lizards.
Big lizards. Like it's kind of the running joke because this island was a big secret, and InGen tried to keep everything real hush hush. There's a whole conversation at the beginning of the movie.
The difference is that Hammond had them coming there to sort of like evaluate things. They weren't getting involved.
Yeah.
These guys with the InGen group were coming to like
Loot the place.
And like take charge. And in order to do that, you should know what the fuck you're walking into.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, they came off as like soldiers,
Idiots.
mercenaries.
Yeah.
And you would think that, if they know that they're going into a situation where there are predators present, they'd have at least done some rudimentary homework on like how to, protect themselves.
They did because they said, "Hey, we know that the
But the whole not knowing what a velociraptor is what Jude's point is.
I was very triggered.
I can see your point. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't expect if you're basically a hired gun, you get a call go to this job. You're going to some island, you're picking up some animals, whatever. It's a paying gig.
But also keep in mind, this is the character that died trying to take a shit.
Yeah, and like he's got that zapper thing. Like, what is that even for? You're just torturing they're dinosaurs, you jackass. You're gonna just torture a dinosaur and be like, "I'm the fucking king of this fucking island."
Yeah, exactly.
Like you're an idiot.
That's his
and
character.
I already knew that you were gonna die. And then he just gets lost. He falls and he gets lost. What are you? You're not a mercenary. You're not a jungle
And he
guy.
never even
You're
gets
not
to
an
take a shit.
expert on anything. You're still holding your shit in, and then you get murdered. You're just dead.
And his
the
death,
whole purpose for his character was to just irritate me.
and his death was basically how John Hammond died in the book. In the first book.
Yeah, it's exactly
He went out to take a poop.
No, John Hammond went outside the visitor center area. He literally fell down a hill, and because there was a little bit more believable because he was an older guy. So when he fell, he hurt himself and he couldn't get back up, and the little green compy things came and ate him.
Well, that's more believable because he's an old man. This guy's supposed to be like fit as a fiddle, walking through a jungle, taking charge leader guy, and he just falls and gets lost and gets eaten. It was so stupid.
And I think the biggest problem Jude and I had while we were watching this movie is that
Don't you speak for me.
the characters.
Here we go.
Here we go again.
All the characters act stupidly. Like they should know better than to do certain things, and they just do them anyway because if they don't, then then you can't have like the big set pieces. Like for instance, saving the baby T-Rex because he's got a broken leg.
Yeah.
And like the entire time Vince Vaughn's carrying the baby T-Rex, what's her name? Julianne Moore's character.
You have a problem with that?
Well, I have a problem because she obviously knows it's a bad idea to bring the T-Rex
Yeah,
out
she
of the
knows
nest.
all of this stuff about dinosaurs and she's researching them and about how she's like, "Oh, I believe that the parents of a T-Rex would absolutely care for it."
But guys,
and then she just steals it.
They have to carry the T-Rex into the mobile home so they can have the 30-minute
Exactly.
montage in the middle of the movie of the T-Rexes knocking the mobile home off the cliff.
Yeah.
And that's the issue is that
Terrible.
Like it was all because they needed to justify this set piece.
Yeah.
And but the the motivation behind the character should have been smart enough to know that like that was going to happen if they did this. Like Julianne Moore's character, from the minute she saw Vince Vaughn was carrying that baby T-Rex, was telling him this is a bad idea. We shouldn't be doing this. And yet she just goes along with it.
Well, yeah, it's too late now.
No, it's not.
These people are animal lovers. They're basically PETA light, right? So they find out that this jackass breaks the leg of some animal just to bait the other animal in. And Vince Vaughn, he's, Greenpeace, Earth First. It's revealed later on in the movie that his character has been known to do these like criminal activity stuff in favor of like the environment. He's basically an environmental terrorist. So like to see him like, oh my God, these jackasses just broke this animal's leg just to bait it. I got to save it. He takes it and he saves it.
You can
Julianne Moore's
it.
Character, Dr. Harding, knew it was a bad idea, but at that point, is also her inclination to at least save the animal or try to.
You can justify these individual things, but for the most part, consistently throughout this movie,
no, you're fine.
The characters just act dumb.
And then she still has like the blood of the baby all over her and doesn't realize that the T-Rex is going to track her down after it came back to kill her because of what she did.
It came back to get her baby.
No. It came back to get her baby, and then it came back
baby.
again to make sure that the person who kidnapped her baby.
They explained why that happened too, because the T-Rex is now moving into that area, felt like that was a part of their territory now because they had their baby was there. They felt like the trailer and the area around that was theirs, so they fought.
I think to me the biggest issue I had with this movie was that it was just. It seemed like everything was just to be bigger and more explosion-y.
Yeah, we got
more,
two T-Rexes.
Yeah, now we got two T-Rexes. Now we got more dinosaurs running through the jungle. Now we got more people hunting
Got
the
people
dinosaurs.
on motorcycles.
It just seemed really over the top.
Yeah,
to me,
that stuff with the InGen crew that came in, way over the top. You're 100%
So
right.
obnoxious.
It wasn't
because in the book
explained well. It was
essentially the same thing happens, but it just happens in a different way. So you guys remember Dotson from the first movie? He's
Dotson over here.
See, nobody cares.
Yeah.
See, like that guy is a huge part of.
He was like
books.
the main bad guy.
Yes, he's the main bad guy.
Hammond's nephew in the movie took his place
in a terrible way, but yes.
Okay.
and it's weird because you'd think Spielberg would carry over that character, but
it would have been a perfect opportunity because Dotson is like a Bond villain basically. He's a
he works for a rival.
He works for Biosyn, which is a rival company against InGen, and
they want their own dinosaurs.
Yeah, basically, they're trying to catch up on the technology of dinosaurs so they can capitalize on it. And their way of Biosyn's like the evil biological company because they're like, we want these animals not to showcase them for like a park or something. We want to so that we can experiment on them and test them and further the
because all the animal rights activists were giving them a hard time for experimenting on pigs and dogs. And so like they're like, well, technically dinosaurs are extinct, and so if we make these animals, then they don't have any rights, so we can do whatever we want to them.
Yeah, that was the justification basically for Biosyn. And Dotson was like the worst of the worst. Like he did human experimentation without telling people. I can't remember specifically what it was, but it described in the book how he went down to South America and like gave these people this medicine without telling them, and it like killed a bunch of people. And he was like,
bear pig.
Yeah. And so anyway, he in the book, he's the main trying to get
no
some
weapons.
Eggs. No weapons. They have this like little sonic machine. I don't know why they didn't have any weapons. Don't look at me like that. It's a plot hole.
and created by Michael Crichton, actually.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's the surprising part.
I mean, the book
in the movies
itself,
they brought lots of guns.
Yeah. In the book is, I mean, this is my favorite book because the adventure of it and how everything kind of unfolds is so much fun to read. But essentially the same thing happens, right? Dotson breaks the leg of the T-Rex. I think it's more by accident than on purpose. And then
they were trying to steal eggs in the book.
Yeah, they're trying to steal the eggs from the T-Rex, and he slips and falls into the nest, and he steps on the baby T-Rex, breaks its leg. Sarah Harding and a couple of the other guys that are with Ian find out about it, and they try to rescue the animal because it's the same thing. They're like animal activists. They want to save the animals as best as possible, and the same events happen.
And it's funny in the books. kind of in keeping with the burgeoning 90s new wave feminism, Malcolm gets his leg re-injured during that trailer scene where they're hanging off.
Sarah Harding's the main character.
And Sarah Harding basically becomes the main character of the book at that point.
Yeah.
Because Malcolm's just so doped up on morphine, he can't even operate.
At least it's justified. I mean, it's mentioned multiple times. He's on a cane most of the book. And
but she's a real badass. Doesn't she like carry him on her back at a certain point?
Okay, so you guys remember the trailer hanging over the edge? How they all kind of like climbed the rope?
Was that in the book?
It was in the book.
I didn't read the book.
You should.
That was one of two things that Spielberg wanted to take from the book and put in the movie.
It's like, are we doing a book review or a movie review?
Both.
I like hearing the difference.
We talked about Star Wars for 3 hours. Give me this.
It's his favorite. Let him have it.
Okay.
Fucking salty bastard.
I'll go in the other room.
It's his baby.
Until we talk about movies
He
again.
doesn't read.
Anyway, yeah, he doesn't read. I don't read movies.
I don't.
Yeah.
Unless it's a Kurosawa film.
Even then. You
Barely then.
haven't watched any Kurosawa films.
Half of one.
Anyway, so the events kind of play out, but the book is much better.
Yeah,
Jackass.
One of my
I can see the headline
Don't
now.
let him yuck your yum.
Vader gets salty about books.
one of my favorite scenes in the movie in terms of like how stupid it is, and this just goes to showcase like the stupidity of these characters. There's a scene where so the Tyrannosaurus is kind of like comes back to the mercenary camp when everyone's sleeping.
Oh yeah.
And they wake up and they realize that there's a big T-Rex there, so everyone starts running around. And like the right-hand guy to the main safari dude who's like leading the expedition to capture these dinosaurs, as they're running away, they come to this field with the tall grass, and the guy knows that raptors are hiding in the grass, and he's yelling, "Don't go into the tall grass! Don't go into the tall grass!" Right before he runs right into it's like the movie is just filled with stupid stuff. Like
Yeah, but they had to have that cool scene with the raptors running through the grass.
Dude, the raptors are criminally underutilized in this movie. Criminally underutilized.
Well, let me talk about the story of this movie for just a minute. So the interesting part about this is that Michael Crichton had never written a sequel to any of his books before, and he got so many letters from kids about Jurassic Park that he decided, okay, I'm going to write a sequel to it. Plus, I'm sure the money from Universal helped with that decision. So this is the first movie that first book he did a sequel to, and Steven Spielberg, the only movies that he's done sequels to were the Indiana Jones movies, and this is his only other franchise that he's done a sequel to. So an interesting parallel there, but. After that movie hit big, so Michael Crichton, I think he wrote 2 more books before he wrote the Lost World in between when Jurassic Park was released. And so as he was writing this book, he didn't have any real communication with Spielberg while he was working on it. And so Spielberg and David Koepp, the screenwriter from the first movie, while Crichton was writing this book over the course of like a year or 2 or something like that, Koepp and Spielberg were off on their own, and they were kind of spitballing ideas for a sequel as well. And so basically David Koepp was getting all these letters from kids saying, oh, can you like not wait a full hour before you introduce the dinosaurs in the next movie? Can you like put in a Brontosaurus or a Stegosaurus or like whatever? So Spielberg was looking at all these letters from fans and being like, okay, we should have this in here and we should have that in there and stuff like that. And this was before what they knew the story that Michael Crichton was coming up with. And so when Crichton released the book, David Koepp got a copy of it and went to Spielberg. And Spielberg said, there's only 2 things from this book I want in my movie. I want the scene with the trailers hanging off the cliff, and I want the second island. So like those were the 2 things that they took from the book. Everything else, they were just like, nah, we're going to do our own thing. And so whereas with the first movie, you had Michael Crichton helping to adapt his book to a screenplay, Michael Crichton had no involvement in the screenplay for the second movie. And this was, The Lost World was almost entirely David Koepp with guidance from Steven Spielberg. And if you know anything about David Koepp's career, he's not a very good writer when left to his own devices.
Here we go.
Yeah.
It's apparent.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can tell, like, I believe Kathleen Kennedy, who produced the movie, she produced the original Jurassic Park.
I know.
So she was
and Indiana Jones.
I know.
All right.
So she
That
was
was back when she was getting coffee for the director.
yeah. She was
Shit.
she was basically quoted as saying that you know just like Michael Crichton doesn't have any help when he's writing his books, Steven Spielberg doesn't have any help when he's making his movies. And so like she made it clear that Crichton and Spielberg didn't communicate on how this film was going to go. And I think you can tell that just because like at a certain point Spielberg was like, I want a scene where dinosaurs raging through San Diego, and that was not in the book.
Oh God, no, no.
But one of the things that really bothered me about the movie, and it has nothing to do with race or anything like that, but it was the fact that you had this black daughter of Ian Malcolm's, and they never explain why she's black. Like, and I wanted to do research into this because I was like, like that always kind of bugged me that like if you're going to do that, at least explain the relationship. And it's a really convoluted story about like how this came about. So like, what was the daughter's name?
Kelly.
Okay. So Kelly was at first an amalgamation of the two kids from the book. And it all started because Spielberg had met this young actress. He had seen her in some type of play, I believe, or some type of like TV movie. And he really liked her. And he was like, I want to put you in one of my movies. And so he was like, I'm going to put her in Jurassic Park in this role. And so David Koepp basically created this role of Kelly. And originally she was going to be like an inner city student that Malcolm was tutoring.
That's more in line with the books.
Yeah. But then David Koepp couldn't figure out why Nobel Prize winning mathematician would be tutoring a inner city youth.
You know what they came up with in the book?
What's that?
So there's a character named Levine who's kind of taking the point behind this. Is he's the main reason why they go to the island. This guy, he's a super rich, like hoity-toity, has all the money in the world, trust fund child. And he's into science, and he follows Malcolm around like a little lost puppy dog, and he's really looking up to him and all this stuff. And he ends up because he's such a jackass, he's driving through a school zone in his like Ferrari at like 100 miles an hour, and he gets pulled over and arrested. And the judge says to pay off the judgment or whatever, you're going to work at this school voluntarily for X amount of months or whatever, and that's how you're going to do your what's it called. Public service to pay off your crime. And he said, that's how he comes in contact with the two kids that go to this school, and that's where the connection comes in. So,
I mean, I don't necessarily think that they needed to make her an inner city kid just because she was black, but she could have just been like his intern or something.
But regardless, so David Koepp couldn't figure out, how to justify this. So instead, he looks at the theme that him and Spielberg were working on about like the whole like nature versus nurture and like having the dinosaurs, parents and children type thing. And so he was like, well, what if we make her his daughter? And Steven Spielberg was like, well, okay, but she's black. And David Koepp's like, well, yeah, I know, but you have like 2 adopted black children. Spielberg's like, that's right, I do. Okay, let's make her his daughter. And so like David Koepp went back to the drawing board, and because they'd already cast this girl, like they couldn't just change her race. So like they're like, okay, we're going to make her his daughter, but I can't figure out how to justify or how to explain the fact that she's black. So we're just not going to address it.
Is it really that hard to
No.
come up with yourself?
Like he literally,
either his wife at the time is black and they have a mixed race child, or adopted.
yeah.
But
That's
also,
not really. I don't think it's something that needed to be explained in the movie.
Well, I mean, it
never bothered me. I don't know.
It's a little jarring.
Is it? It is. It is. I mean, like if you just explain these things away,
it just kind of takes you out of the movie because you have to come up with an explanation on your own.
Yeah.
If they had addressed it in the movie, it would just be like, all right.
If they had shown a picture of him with his black ex-wife or girlfriend,
Plus, in
there
the
you
first
go.
movie,
There it is explained.
In the first movie, they don't talk about has he been married before?
Oh yeah,
No.
they do. There's a whole
yeah. They talk
Have you
about
ever
how
been
he
married?
has kids.
Me, yeah.
He even says that he has a couple kids.
Oh, I didn't.
I'm
catch
always
that.
on the lookout for the next ex Mrs. Malcolm.
Yeah.
Like that's his
Okay,
character.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, but I just find it funny that David Koepp couldn't figure out how to just work in a line of dialogue that says, "Oh, she's adopted."
I don't think it's
You
important.
know, it's not important, but like these guys said, like these are little things that kind of take you out of the movie.
Yeah.
I think there's bigger fish to fry in this movie, though.
Well, for
definitely.
sure.
Let's talk about San Diego.
Yeah, how did all those guys on the boat die?
So I have no defense for this in the context of the movie, but in like the storyboards and in the behind the scenes nonsense, they have some explanation for what happens, and it somehow.
I mean, if there was raptors on the boat, I would have been totally into it. But there was a giant T-Rex.
There was in the
That's
first
it.
book. The first
That's
book,
it.
there was a bunch of raptors on a boat. That happened. But this one, I know there's a storyboard that explains it.
They literally
I saw the video.
a decapitated hand of the captain on the steering.
Yeah, holding the button down.
In a room that there's no way a T-Rex could have gotten into.
Yeah.
The T-Rex was still in the cargo hold.
Yeah. Well,
It makes zero sense.
no, it makes no sense. I know there's a storyboard that it kind of explains it.
Who was driving that boat back?
Nobody. The computer, the GPS.
Oh, that was big technology.
Oh,
in
was that an
2001.
option
A
for the way
GPS?
there? Because I feel like
98,
they should have gone with that option
Okay,
for the
98,
way to
whatever.
San Diego.
What are you talking about?
I said who was driving the boat back out at the end of the movie? They like
Oh, at
trapped-
the end of the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they got a new crew to go on there and figure all this stuff out.
Oh, fuck them, right?
I'm sure they'll be fine. Well, what are they going to do? Of course, they're going to put more people on the boat to get it out of the San Diego Bay and sail it back to Isla Nublar.
Should've
The issue is how
Sunk it.
it got there with everybody dead.
Right.
That's they set their course. They say,
Yeah.
okay, this is where we're going to go. You don't have to. It's not like driving a car. It's a boat. It just goes.
Have you ever driven a boat before?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah,
That's
a
how
big ass
boats work?
boat like that.
Here, look. I guarantee you. You point a boat in a direction. Oh, I'm going to hit that. I'm going to hit that dock. That's 50 miles away, and you push the engine up the flank, and you just point it in that direction. It's not going to hit anywhere near that dock.
This is a. Are you guys really going to nitpick that?
Yes,
Yeah.
because it's
What, a
absolutely
GPS system
ridiculous.
can't make small corrections to keep a boat on course.
You need someone to make those corrections, though.
I don't think you
It's
do.
not a
You have a captain there to make sure everything's happening.
It doesn't matter. I just want to know how everybody died. That's all.
They got eaten.
But this is another
But
great,
there was no dinosaurs out there.
this is another
Did
great
he trap
example.
himself in the cargo hold after he ate everyone?
It's possible that could have happened. Yeah.
This
He
is-
was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to bed, and he crawled back in.
Night night.
Night.
This is another example of a set piece that the director wanted to do and doesn't make any sense within the context of the story, but the story has to set it up to justify it. And it was just, I mean, basically Spielberg, he was keeping with his monster movie motif, and he wanted a Godzilla moment.
I really hate that he did that.
Yeah.
I really hate that Steven Spielberg actually made this movie.
It kind of ruins things for you a little bit, doesn't it?
It takes some of his luster off.
Yeah.
'Cause it's
Nobody's
not good.
perfect. If this was a modern movie, Katie should be like, Steven Spielberg doesn't give a shit about his craft. He's a hack writer.
He's thinking about it right now. He's like,
Does it hurt you to say that?
Well,
Because if this was J.J. Abrams, you would give him no slack.
Spielberg's not a writer, first of all. He's a director. He doesn't write his own stuff.
Okay.
He doesn't.
All right.
But I've never been shy about criticizing Spielberg when he deserves it.
Just give me shit, man. I don't care.
No, like
I don't-
pretty much you can divide Steven Spielberg's career up in before Schindler's List and after Schindler's List. After he won the Oscar for Schindler's List, his movies have gone downhill and have been real crap. Like there's a handful of exceptions to that, but for the most part, like everything before Schindler's List was amazing with like a few exceptions, and then everything after Schindler's List has been crappy with a few exceptions.
Did Saving Private Ryan come out before or after?
I believe
after.
I believe it came out after.
Because Schindler's List came out the same year as Jurassic Park.
That's one of no, it didn't.
It was being filmed at the same time. Maybe it didn't come out at the same time, but it was being filmed at the same time.
I think it came out after Jurassic Park
'Cause he
at
was-
some point. But
Never mind. It's
the
not important.
point I mean, like you can say, Catch Me If You Can. It came out after Schindler's List, and that's a good Spielberg movie. But by and large, the majority of his filmography after Schindler's List has been like really bad, and it's like the exact opposite of what it was before Schindler's List, which is for the most part, like his movies are before that were classics, arguably.
Yeah.
With a few exceptions. So, I mean, like, I don't give Spielberg a pass just because he's Spielberg. Like this movie, The Lost World, is not a good movie
No.
on so many different levels. Like the acting's bad. The only good thing about this movie is the special effects. Like the story for this movie is bad. The writing's bad.
The scene with the trailers and the two T-Rexes with the animatronics and the seat, like that was fantastic. I love watching. I could watch it a million times.
It's a good set piece.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I thought it was just a big money grab. I really did. I thought they were just trying to take advantage.
No, the money
of
grab was number 3.
Well, that was. Yeah.
You guys want to talk about number 3, or do you want to finish up with?
Well, I really liked the scene in San Diego where he ate the dog.
That
was pretty cool.
There's a scene that they cut
Because
from
you're
that.
a cat person.
So remember when
I'm a dog person too.
when the kid took the picture of the T-Rex and it, like roared at them and the parents were yelling, like they cut this whole scene out, but the T-Rex.
And that was the other thing that irritated me too, is like the writing for the dialogue between actors. Like these parents are just like bickering between themselves about
not
their
the fish tank.
Yeah. Like can you just walk down the hallway into your kid's room
now,
for Christ's sake?
If my kid had come into my bedroom and said, "Mom, there's a dinosaur outside," I would have told him, "Get the fuck out of here."
At 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah. It's like, I'm trying to sleep.
Like,
The T-Rex actually broke into the house and like ate the parents or something.
That's the scene I would have liked.
Good, because they're annoying.
I don't know.
The biggest issue with this movie is the fact that the writer had nothing to do with the creation of it. It was all a hack screenwriter and Spielberg.
Yeah.
And it was not a good team up.
Shots fired.
Shots fired. That's okay.
And I also like all the crosstalk was annoying. The characters were all annoying. I didn't care for any of the characters.
Yes.
You know, it was just it was a bad movie.
I'm actually shocked to hear you say that like Spielberg fell in love with this actress and wanted to put her in something because he loved her work before, because I felt like her acting was terrible.
Oh, she was one of the most
she
annoying
was
characters.
so over the top. Dad.
Yeah, remember when she saved the day by doing gymnastics?
We don't talk about that.
Like she does those bar twirls and then kicks the velociraptor out the window.
At least it was set up.
It was set up. It was
Yeah.
properly set up.
Oh, yeah.
Properly paid off.
But I remember
Good writing.
I remember,
You know what else they've done that
It was
in
just
a
called
movie for?
writing.
It's called Jim Cotta, where they had the pommel horse in the middle of the ring, and Bart Connor did his little kicky things off the pommel horse.
But I remember seeing that scene in the theater and people groaned when she was like doing those like bar flips and stuff.
Rightfully so.
Well, they needed a moment at the end of the movie to make her entire character throughout the entire movie
She needed
matter.
an arc.
Yeah.
There's the arc.
Yeah, my biggest problem with all the Jurassic movies is like the forced inclusion of children into these films where they don't need
Goonies.
to be there. They don't need to be there. The Goonies is about children.
They're in the books, and the kids in the books are awesome. Really, really
you could
well
have
written.
easily left out the daughter in,
For the
in
entire
Lost
thing.
World and
Also-
not missed anything.
There's a bit of a I don't know. It's not nostalgia. There's another word. I'm terrible with words today. It's a tradition. There we go. It's a tradition in the Jurassic Park franchise, especially in the books, translated over to the movies, that there's always a bit of having some kids in there to
Family factor.
to give them the family factor plus the awe factor of like seeing, you know, as you're a kid and you're looking at dinosaurs, you freaking love dinosaurs. Most kids growing up love dinosaurs.
Yeah, but it's this mentality that if you have a kid in your movie, the kids in the audience are going to identify with them, and so it's a way for children to, you know, kind of come into the story.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, my whole point is like I could understand why the kids were included in the first movie. There was no reason to include children in this movie.
At least in the third movie, he's not there until the third act, to the third end.
Well,
end of
the
that-
third
end of the
movie, his character makes sense because that's the entire reason why they're there.
It's a rescue mission.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just saying, like, as far as like the movie's concerned on a meta point of view, like it's a tradition to have children in these movies to give it a certain perspective. And that's why they're there. And whether or not they're well written or not can be argued all day long. But the inclusion of them, I don't think should be excluded at all. I think they belong in the Jurassic Park franchise. And I think they should just
completely disagree.
I think they should be written better. That's all.
I think initially the reason the children are there is just because it's a staple of Spielberg. Like he likes to include children in his movies, and
I think we lost Vader.
by the time we get to, you know, the last Jurassic World movie, it's like really
That's next week.
Yeah,
It's next week.
I was just looking at Spielberg's IMDb.
Oh, okay.
What is
He's
before and
watching
after?
TikTok.
Yeah.
You TikToking?
TikTok.
Before we go,
but definitely not my favorite of these three.
it's
Jurassic
it's my
movies.
least.
No
favorite
one's
also.
favorite. If this is anyone's favorite movie, I don't know what to say.
Go read the book. The book is leaps and bounds better. It has a couple.
You can say that about every book.
I have a couple inconsistencies in there, but I mean,
I want a shirt that says the book was better.
The book was better. Okay, I'll make one for you.
You're going to regret ever asking us to watch these movies, man. I have a
Why?
feeling.
It doesn't take anything away from me. I love it. I still watch it. I still enjoy it. I find the parts that I like, and I just ignore the stuff that I don't.
You know,
and that's another. Oh, go ahead.
I actually really have kind of enjoyed watching these movies this week because I am not a part of that core fandom of it. They're not bad movies. They're just not good. You know, they're
popcorn entertainment.
Yeah, that's it. They're popcorn movies, and I'm fine with that.
Now is as good a time as any to talk about it. But the difference in the fandom, and as far as I'm concerned, I can't speak for everybody, but as far as I'm concerned, like somebody could say, "Oh, that freaking movie is a piece of shit." Like, okay, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with you, but I still enjoy it, and I feel like that's a thing that is around my fandom and the Jurassic Park fandoms. Everybody kind of feels the same way. Like, yeah, it's not perfect, but we still love it, and we love it for what it is.
Like
we love
prequels.
it. We love it for the dinosaurs. We love it for this. We love it for Spielberg. We love it, because the books are there, and it kind of, Michael Crichton, blah blah blah. Any reason that you want to pick to love these books, or because I grew up with them. But I don't really see anybody in the Jurassic Park fandom that says stuff like the Star Wars fandom does. We're like, this movie's a freaking masterpiece, and if you don't like it, you don't understand cinema. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, we don't say that. I don't know anybody in the Jurassic Park fandom that tries to say that because it's just not true.
I think it's cute that you have a Jurassic Park fandom.
I was just going to ask, is the level of the fandom?
Hey, Jurassic World made the most money that year. It was billions of dollars.
I'm sure it did.
So is the level of the fandom with Jurassic Park equal to the level of the fandom with Star Wars?
Oh God,
no. I don't know, like a scale? No.
Yeah, like are the fans as crazy?
No.
That's what I thought.
No. And we're not even, I can't say that we're even as big. I think the general audience like Jurassic Park, but as far as like a fandom goes.
You ever seen a Jurassic Park con?
Well, I think it's
doesn't
probably
exist, right?
That's a good point.
I think it's probably the difference between someone who wishes for a time when there was dinosaurs and has like a nostalgia for that versus someone who wishes they were a Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see people cosplaying dinosaurs.
No,
but they
do, but it's like a sexy.
We do have a whole theme park.
It's like a weird, sexy thing. No judgment.
Like an odd furry.
You have a ride,
I won't yuck
right?
your yum.
It's the whole area. It's kind of like Star Wars land. It's all Jurassic Park. They got the Spinosaurus. I don't know. I haven't been there in a while.
It came first.
There is at Universal Studios, there is a Jurassic Park area.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's big enough to justify, the fandom is a sizable fandom, I feel like. But I just don't see the same mentality from the Jurassic Park fandom that I do from other fandoms.
I don't ever see myself going to war with not fandom, with the Jurassic Park people.
I feel like
I just won't.
There's a certain level of crazy with the different fandoms.
And there's always that 10% of people who are just like
Star Wars and Star Trek fans. That's a whole
I
another
don't think
world.
that dinosaur fans are there's like out of control.
There's a funny meme, right? So there's a meme. It's like an old Greek mythology painting of like all the people fighting with knives. It's like the assassination of Caesar or something like that. And then underneath it says Star Wars fandom. And then underneath it just says Jurassic Park fandom, and it's everybody standing around a table going, "Fuck yeah, dinosaurs!"
I think that's accurate.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
Like we don't. I don't like that movie. Okay, cool. But the dinosaurs were cool though.
Yeah.
So it's like that's all it is, and that's what I love about it because it's just fun. That's all. It doesn't have to be anything else. It doesn't have to be like a masterpiece class of cinema or writing. It's just,
it can't be because it's not.
I just had like a brain light bulb go on.
What's up?
Like I feel like the Jurassic Park fans, the dinosaur fans, are equal to like the shark fans.
Sure.
Like people who are nuts about shark.
I bet you there's a lot of crossover
for Shark
there.
Week, yeah. And I think the Star Wars fans are equal to people who are like really into vampires. Like, oh, if you were a vampire, what would your power be? Like those people are just like, if you were a Jedi, what color would your lightsaber be? Those are the same people. I think so.
That's hilarious. All right. I'm going to end on that segment right there. Podcast over.